Ukraine has been taking the war deep inside Russia, hitting several places just last night. All week they've been doing this, but just last night, today is Thursday, October 16th, hit multiple refineries and electrical facilities and things along these lines. Russia's hitting back. They're hitting at Ukraine's electrical grid, and the ground is shifting on the front lines. I'll show you all of this in this video. It feels like the escalation is real, and we're moving toward that Friday meeting with Trump. I'll talk about that in a different video. Let's get going with what we're seeing here. Oil terminal in Fedosia, hit by Ukraine drones, continues to burn for a fourth consecutive day. This was a devastating hit. Something like 11 to 16, and I'm not sure exactly where, but some of those oil refinery containers were hit and are still burning and or have been burning. Ukraine's drones blasted one of Russia's oldest oil refineries overnight in Saratov. Officials said that the attack was part of a growing campaign to cripple Moscow's military and industrial network. When I say this containers, I mean these big round oil depot containers. That's what I'm talking about. Saratov Oil Refinery, one of Russia's oldest, processing 4.8 million tons of crude annually as of 2023 and supplying the Russian military. So we're not sure exactly what's hit there, but something went down and it's bad. Russia of Volgograd region, 500 kV Balashlavskaya substation near Uryupinsk was hit overnight, according to Russian sources. The substation plays a key role in transferring electricity from the hydroelectric plant to central Russia. Ukraine has started to take this tactic as well. You're going to hit our power, we're going to hit your power, your energy. And so it's not just oil, they're also hitting electric substations now. And by the way, where is that? It's out here. I just had to look up where this substation was in Uryupinsk. And here it is. Okay. Hot night in Russia's Volgograd region, as incompetent Russian air defense had no luck preventing Ukrainian drones from targeting the Balashov electric substation. And that's over here. The other one was up here. This is down here. Okay, overnight, Ukrainian forces mounted a successful drone raid on Russia's power infrastructure in Volgograd. Russian officials report that the major Balashovoska Skia substation was hit, knocking out power to portions of Volgograd and Voronezh Oblast. Again, I think this is the way of the future. I think this is what they're going to continue to do. You keep knocking out our power, we're going to knock out yours. Notably, near Kubyshev and Lysychansk oil pipeline, which moves Russian oil from the Urals to refineries and export stations on the Black Sea. So that's what this was near, and also likely knocked out power to a key portion of rail line that runs between Boris-Gledsk and Volgograd. Fires broken out in Kstovo near Nizhny Novgorod, likely at the Kosovo petrochemical plant. This facility is a key part of Russia's chemical industry, producing olefins and ethylene, propylene, and benzene. So again, the hits just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. Fire reported at Lukoil Nizhny Novgorod refinery in Kosovo, Russia. Major fire erupted today at the Lukoil Nizhny Novgorod refinery, about 800 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. And there are some images so you can see what's happening here and where it is. Okay, here's Kosovo. It's well west of Moscow. So again, these drones or rockets or whatever it is just aren't being shot down by the Russians. It's fascinating that they're able to get there. The Russians will talk about they downed them. Well, I mean, eventually it came down, but that's as far as that goes. Another Russian air defense S-400 radar was destroyed, and we're not sure exactly where, but okay. Now, analysis of 2 months of deep strikes, this is from Euromaidan Press, explains what Ukraine really targets at Russian oil refineries. So this is really interesting. So when we get into the article, between August and September of 2025, that's a little small, isn't it? Between August and September 2025, 30 attacks on Russian energy infrastructure were confirmed. Of these, 23 were successful, 2 failed, 5 had undetermined results. This translates into roughly 3 confirmed successful strikes per week. How about that? 3 successful strikes per week. The increased tempo reflects more concentrated strategy. Oops, that's too big. According to the analysis, most confirmed successful strikes, 9 in total, targeted atmospheric vacuum distillation units, ATVs. I was talking about these ATVs the other day. These are essentially primarily for crude oil processing. Damaging them can halt a refinery's production entirely. This is what I just said the other day. When you hit the ATVs, it's a really bad problem. And so you're seeing the number of ATVs that have been hit. And then we go down a little bit further. The second most frequent targets were technological overpasses, fuel pipeline systems inside the facilities. These overpasses are critical for internal oil transport between installations, and they had hit those at these refineries. Third is natural gas fraction and gas condensate processing units, and those were hit here. And the hits just keep coming. Ukrainian drones also hit 5 pumping and dispatcher stations of Russia's oil pipelines, and you see those here on these days. So, okay. The struggle's real. I mean, they've really hit a lot all throughout Russia, and it just kept coming. Last night was just another devastating night of attacks. By the way, if you're not familiar with me, my name is Darren Gerdes. I do these videos to provide context in the war in Ukraine. And if you want to stay abreast of what's going on, hit the subscribe button. I'll be back tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Okay. What happened with Russia hitting Ukraine day over day? Well, 238 out of 320 Shaheds, but that's out of 357 total. So if we look at what actually was hit, here we see that there was 88.4% of Shahed drones were knocked down, but missiles is bad. 13% of missiles, 13.5% of missiles. So overall, 86% or 80.6% were shot down, but it's like 13%, only 13% of missiles is very bad, and you see some damage. So Russia launched drone and missile strikes overnight on DTEK, Navogats energy infrastructure. As a result, gas production facilities in Poltava region were forced to halt operations. Again, it's going after infrastructure. That's just what the Russians have been doing. They've been doing this every winter. Russia hit Poltava's gas infrastructure overnight. In Chernihiv, a local enterprise was struck and caught fire. Explosions were also heard in Kharkiv, Krapinski, Kropyvnytsky, Izium, and Poltava. This is Zelensky talking about it. Last night brought strikes against our people, our energy sector, our civilian infrastructure. Russia launched more than 300 attack drones, 37 missiles, a significant number of them ballistic, against Ukraine's infrastructure in the Vinnytsia, Sumy, and Poltava regions. Part of the reason for that terrible, 13.5% is because ballistic. They really have a hard time hitting ballistic missiles. It's just ballistic missiles operate, cruise missiles operate low and fly around and can move. Ballistic go up and then straight down, and it's just really hard to hit without the right kind of Patriot missile systems or things along those lines. The Russians use every single day to strike our energy infrastructure. Now there is an important momentum toward peace in the Middle East. In Europe, this is also possible. That's exactly what I'll be discussing today and tomorrow in Washington. So look for that later on today. I'll be talking about Zelensky going to meet with Trump tomorrow and that sort of thing. Okay. This was an incredible video. I've not seen anything like this. So I'm going to play the video and read. The Ukrainian Air Force Yak-52 light aircraft rammed a Russian Zala. That's what's hitting here. That's a Russian Zala reconnaissance drone with its wing in a mid-air interception. That's gutsy. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in the plane hitting something else and then hoping that the wing stays on. But that's what it did. It rammed it with its wing in order to knock it down. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at the battlefield. 1,080 Russians off the battlefield. Again, if 1,000 is about the average, that's a little over 2 tanks, 9 armored fighting vehicles, 42 artillery systems. This is 16 October 2020. 16 October 2025. But look at this, 139 vehicles and fuel tanks. Like, that's a pretty high number. Then that 9 figure for the armored fighting vehicles, so it's going to factor into another story in just a little bit. Then cross direction, Russian invaders led 42 assaults. Okay, that's about right for the number. Today, Russians assaulted another large-scale mechanized assault on the Ocheretyne, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, axis. 16 October, Dobropilia axis. So Russians conducted large-scale attack with 22 armored vehicles. Okay, the positions in the area of responsibility of the Azov media aiming to capture Shkove. Results: Ukraine's defense destroyed 9 armored vehicles, damaged 4 armored vehicles. Damage don't get reported though. So that's what's going on. That's the Bunny Ears area, the Dobropilia. Armed forces of Ukraine have advanced near Churev Yar and Novoshikove and across direction. According to the deep state map, the planned gradual clearing of the ground of the area is underway. Russian invaders who do not surrender will be eliminated. Again, they have these areas that are just these pockets that are cut off, and they're systematically working on destroying. Okay, here's an ambush by FPV drone on a Russian vehicle full of infantry. Again, the drones just make everything that much more difficult. You can't do what you used to be able to do because, well, you can't. And the drones are getting bigger and badder. Look at this, a huge Ukrainian bomber drone with a payload capacity of 95 kilograms. It's pretty amazing. Anti-drone tunnel nets through one of the logistics routes so that you can see what they have to go through. And even when they're in these tunnels, they're going as quickly as they possibly can go so that anything that might have slipped through can't tag them. Okay. Here's the British intelligence update. It's likely that the Russian ground forces seized approximately 250 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in September 2025, a notable decrease from the approximately 465 taken in August. This follows a moderate month-on-month decreases on ground taken from June to August. Notable decrease on the ground taken from August 2025 to September 2025 is highly likely due to, and this makes sense, Russian ground forces focusing on relocating multiple Russian divisions along the front line, notably airborne VDV divisions from Sumy Oblast to Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. Okay, so, but that's explanatory of why they have taken less ground than in the past. And they're also getting hit pretty hard in certain places as well. So TASS reported this. This was Western media. This is the Russian ambassador to the UK saying Western media tend to cover the conflict in Ukraine in a distorted way, not giving the whole picture of the situation on the battlefield, where the initiative has clearly shifted to Russia. Initiative has not clearly shifted to Russia. I mean, I just told you about this, right? And if you really look at it, Russia occupies 19% of Ukraine. That's a third less than it did in the spring of 2022. Russian army was tasked in April of 2022 with taking all of Donetsk Oblast. This year, as in previous 3 years, it will fail. It couldn't take Donetsk Oblast for another couple of years. There's really not the mobility where they can have any kind of big breakthrough. So nothing like that will happen. Russia built over, now this is a claim. Lord Bibo is a site that is followed by all the worst kind of folks that you could imagine. It's pro-Russian account. Russia built over 2,000 kilometers of roads in new territories. So I'm showing this to say, if you have any evidence that can dispute it, I would like to see the evidence, because that sounds very high to me that the Russians would go out of their way to do that in the 4 Ukrainian territories. That is likely more than Ukraine built there in 10 years, they say. A plan for this year has already been exceeded by the new territories. About 2,000 kilometers of roads have been built and repaired. I don't buy it. And so if you have any evidence, I'd like to see it. Okay, this charming guy is a Russian. He's in Switzerland, and he's cursing at people because they're speaking Ukrainian. And so he says, I'm a Russian man. We will blanking kill you. In Switzerland, a man attacked a family because of the Ukrainian language. Eyewitnesses reported that the Russian man began shouting insults and threats, including toward a 1-year-old child. Then he lunged at the family and snatched the phone from their hands. The police were already waiting for the attacker on the platform, called by witnesses of the incident. And so, like, I'll just, like, here's a translation. You can see the translation above. Better delete this video before... Oh, where'd it go? Oh, yeah. Better... Oh, my translation thing isn't working out so hot. Here you go. Better delete this video before this blanking ends now. That's bad for you. What kind of blanking Swiss are you? Yeah, so he's a charming guy, isn't he? Okay, let's go over to this last little bit. Putin is afraid of his own soldiers. Well, yeah, we kind of knew that. But so there was this program called Time of Heroes, and it's a program that was allowing people who had served in a special military operation into governmental posts. Well, they don't really want that anymore. Russian soldiers are being forced to withdraw from Putin's Time of Heroes program under threat of being sent to the front lines. Commanders of Russia's Center military group have ordered troops to cancel their participation in the Kremlin's Time of Heroes initiative, warning that anyone who refuses will be reassigned to the North Group, effectively to assault units where, as soldiers say, their fate is unknown. Troops were instructed to send screenshots to their commanders confirming that they had withdrawn their applications. According to the wife of one serviceman, refusing to do so meant immediate deployment to the front. The Time of Heroes program was launched by Putin to integrate veterans of the war in Ukraine into government and administrative positions. However, as Reuters has reported in September, citing Kremlin insiders, Putin views the return of war veterans as a potential threat. So, how about that? All right, you know, I'm going to end with one last. Skogstad, Skogstad, a graduate Patreon subscriber. Thank you very much, Gear. And that's this. The motivation on the Ukrainian side is very high, and it's very high for this reason. Listen to this. My motivation is simple but powerful. A wife waiting at home and belief in a free, strong Ukraine where our children won't have to take up arms for the right to live, says a senior operator of the 8th Special Operations Regiment. Yeah, that's right. If the bad guys are in front of you and your family's behind you, you have all the motivation to stay until you can't. Until there's no breath left in your body. The Russians don't have that. The Russians are sent there for much more mercenary reasons. And so the momentum, the motivation is on the side of the Ukrainians. All right, tell me what you think about what you saw here. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.